Hello, welcome back. And if this is the first live you've caught today, you may be wondering what on earth I'm doing showing up live. So today is World Introvert Day, and I talked all about that on my first live, which was the Ask the Introvert series, let's put it like that. And it was about why do people cancel at the last minute or just not show up? So what I'm doing is I'm answering some questions that are often leveled, not necessarily at introverts, but about introverts. And today what I'm doing is this time is moving on to the second question that I had asked of me. And I'm combining it with another one that came in from a member of the public, actually. So this question is very much about, why do people turn up at meetings and then not say anything? Because it means that people around the table often get frustrated. And what I'm combining it with is, how do we create events that are introvert friendly? So I'll be answering both of those kind of under the guise of this one, really. So the first thing to remember when it comes to what makes introverts different, and we are different, we're wired differently. We're not weird, we're wired differently. So it's important that we remember that. And one of the things that makes us different is our communication process. So introverts have a think, say, think communication process, which means that when we're asked a question, typically what we want to do is literally almost kind of lean back in our chairs and reflect, so that what we do is we think about what's the real answer for us. Now, this is almost exactly the opposite to the extrovert typical communication process, which is say, think, say. So somebody asks them a question and they will give an answer. They won't necessarily think about it. They won't necessarily be attached to the answer. They may not even remember what answer they gave a little while later, because it was literally just a top of the head, off the cuff type answer. So to pull this back into why maybe some people don't speak up in meetings as much as they could, especially if you know there's somebody who has the knowledge, but they're not somehow sharing it. It can be all too easy to think they're being mean or they're withholding information. Actually, that's not true. What we need to bear in mind is that in order for an introvert to contribute effectively in a meeting or in any kind of training workplace situation, really, we need to have enough time to think about our answer. So if you just put us on the spot, if you spring a question at us, it's going to look like potentially we don't really have the answer, not of our fingertips anyway, because we need to think about it. So that leads us to think about typical meeting kind of hygiene and etiquette, really, in that we have become so used to operating in fast-paced environments that many managers and leaders will call spontaneous meetings, no notice at all, no clear agenda. People don't know what they're going in to discuss, which is great for the extroverts who can kind of shoot from the hip and just contribute something. Not so good for the introverts who need to think things through. So one of the things that I think we need to do is, and I personally think it's good practice anyway, is to get into the habit of really planning for our meetings, for creating. Now, okay, before I go too far into this, there are going to be some meetings that have to happen spontaneously, but not as many as are currently happening. So we need to get into the habit of planning our meetings better, creating clear agendas that say what it is that's going to be talked about, whether it's for a decision, whether it's for information only, whether it's just for an exploration. Thank you, Gina. She's just said agendas key for meetings. Yes, absolutely they are. I've been in business and around business for so long that actually I've seen far too many agendas that just have like item 1, minutes of the last meeting. Item 2, car parking. Item 3, annual leave. That doesn't help me prepare in any way, shape, or form. So we need to get better at creating meaningful agendas that help people to prepare. Now, let's be honest about it. Some of the more extroverted shoot from the hip types probably won't read the agenda. They may not feel they need to do the preparation for it. But actually, one of the things we need to do is to make sure that we are creating those agendas, so that we're creating a real clear, inclusive environment. This is an interesting one that Sebastian's just put up there. I can reply on the spot, but I'm always unhappy because I didn't get the chance to think it through. Yes, exactly that. We somehow feel pressured to give an answer, and often it's not the answer we want. And for those of us who are then hard on ourselves and overthinkers, that sends us down into that spiral. When I talked about this at my TEDx talk back in 2019, somebody came back to me afterwards and said, I've decided there's a new way that when we're making critical decisions in meetings, in order to give everyone the opportunity to really contribute, I decide to leave the item open until the end of the day so that people can go away and reflect and still share their thoughts and ideas with me after the meeting has kind of formally closed. And I think that makes such sense. Yeah, Sebastian's saying, genuinely feel hot and uncomfortable with on-the-spot questioning. Yeah, me too. And that's one of the mistakes that managers and leaders and chairs of meetings often make, is that they have this sense that we need to include the introverts. So what they'll do is say, Joe, what do you want to add to that? And actually, that's no better a strategy. Now, as we develop in confidence, and it's one of the things that I help introverts to do through the programs I run, etc., I help them with tactics and strategies as to how to bring their knowledge and expertise to the meeting. And sometimes that starts with talking to the meeting chair ahead of the meeting and saying, I see item 3 here, and I know it's going to be quite a busy meeting, and maybe this item is quite contentious, but I have something I really want to add to that. Because then the chairperson of the meeting is aware that actually I have something I want to say. Otherwise, and you may have experienced this yourselves, introverts can feel a bit like goldfish in a meeting. Imagine there's a lot going on, lots of people talking across each other, which usually happens. And the introverts are the ones who sit there and go, trying to get into the conversation, but people are not actually giving them space. So one of the things we need to do is to think about how we set meetings up, how we set other environments, training situations, whatever it happens to be, up, so that people can do the required amount of preparation. Those that need to, in order to be able to contribute confidently, can have done that. And those that don't need to, it's fine. There's no waste there at all. So what we're doing is creating an environment where everyone can contribute if that's what they want to or need to do. Now, there may still be times where introverts are quieter in meetings. And one of the things is because introverts aren't fussed about saying something that's already been said. They don't need to get their voice into the room necessarily. So if it's already been said, they'll think, well, that's fine. It's already been said. Again, if we go back to strategies and tactics, one of the things we may need to do better as introverts is get our voice in the room, and possibly early on, even if it's just to agree with someone. Because all the while we say nothing, people don't know whether we agree or disagree. So at least if you're able to say, and the earlier you can, the better, because the longer you're quieter in a meeting, the harder it becomes to then say something. So to give us the opportunity to actually agree with something that's been said, means that my presence and my voice is in the room. I've been heard for something, and that makes it easier when I want to contribute. So for meeting attendees, for chair people, for leaders, managers, course leaders, whatever it happens to be, pay attention and notice those who look like they want to say something but can't find their way in through the noise. And if it's a meeting that has a coffee break, chat with those people during the break and ask if there are times that they've wanted to say something and haven't got in, because now I'm going to pay closer attention to that. Meetings should not be competitive. It isn't about the loudest person. It isn't about the person who speaks the most. And we'll often find that the quieter ones, the introverts, may say the least, but have the biggest impact with what they say. Thank you, Marianne. She said about agreeing about being put on the spot. And when we do, tend to blabber. Yeah, that's happened to me too. There's another great technique, actually, which I teach people, which is to use a placeholder. And in a way, what I'm doing is sharing out loud my processing. So this is a tip for the introverts, although I said it's for the extroverts. This is for the introverts as well. If you know you want to say something, get in to the conversation and with a placeholder, say something like, actually, I can see two sides to that argument. And as I'm kind of weighing both of those sides up, because what I'm doing is I'm sharing my processing and staying with I'm the one with the talking stick in the moment. So those can be useful techniques. But ideally, what we need is for people to be less selfish. Yes, I'm going to use that word, less selfish in meetings, and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to contribute without picking on them and saying, Joe, you've been quiet. What do you want to add? So let's be more adult about this. Let's be more planned. Let's be more thorough. And let's make sure that meetings work for everyone, because you don't know what gold isn't being shared if all you do is listen to the noise, the kind of echoes that are already in the room. So we're coming to the end of this short answer or ask the introvert session. And as what I haven't mentioned so far is that tonight at 8 p.m. London time, I'm running a special webinar for introverts about finding wholesome resilience. Because sadly, resilience has been weaponized by organizations in a very unhelpful way, as you can imagine. And it's time that we found a way to be resilient in a way that really works for us. So I've got my team manning things at the back here. Are there any questions that I've missed or comments that I've missed that you think I should? No, we're all good. The comment has come back. That's brilliant. In that case, thank you for joining me on this short Ask the Introvert session. I'm going to be coming back around about 3 o'clock. There'll be another question. And the question that I'm probably going to be answering then is, why do the quiet ones, why aren't they fun? Why don't they join in with the banter? Why are they boring? That kind of stuff. So an important one, because when we all have to work together in offices, it's important that we don't label people because of their behavior. So thank you for joining me, team. Thank you for supporting me in the background. I look forward to seeing you later.